Hello everybody, I'm Mr. Wildcat and welcome to a very special review of Married Children. Now, most of you guys already know this by now, but for those of you who don't, we unfortunately lost Larry Storch over the weekend. He passed away in his sleep of natural causes on July 8th at the age of 99 and a half. He was approximately 6 months shy of his 100th birthday. Now, Larry Storch basically had been referenced numerous times throughout season 9 for his for his acting school, which Kelly had been a student of. And Larry Storch even had the honors of making a guest appearance as himself in one episode. And this is going to be an episode which we are going to be reviewing today. Before we go into play, let me go over it. Okay, I'm going to basically make a brief point here. I'm the kind of person that really loves to see it when people make it to their 100th birthday. It's a huge milestone. Not many people make it, and it always makes me so excited. Like, please make it to 100. I really want to see these people make it to 100. Okay. Unfortunately, it wasn't meant for Larry Storch, and he basically joins a group of people that made it to their 99th birthday but did not make it to 100. So the following people I'm going to read off, these are people who basically they made it their 99th birthday but did not make it to their 100th. These are people that they came anywhere from like 45 days to 9 months shy of their 100th birthday. Okay. We have Zsa Zsa Gabor, Billy Graham, that religious crusader you saw on TV throughout the years, John Wooden, who coached UCLA basketball and helped UCLA win had 10 national championships, and I'm probably sure he's going to be spinning in his grave when if he were ever to find out that UCLA is bolting for the Big Ten. You have Hugh Downs, who is mostly famous for his work with Barbara Walters on 2020. And for those of you in Arizona, you know him not only through his guest lectures at Arizona State's journalism school, but also for his spokesperson roles in Hospice of the Valley commercials. Prince Philip, who was Queen Elizabeth II's wife, he just died earlier this year. Supreme Court Justice John Paul Stevens, appointed by Gerald Ford in 1975, retired in 2010. He was replaced by Eliza Kagan. Famous New York City sports announcer Bob Shepard, who basically did announcing work for both Major League Baseball's New York Yankees and NFL's New York Giants. You also have movie actress legend Lillian Gish, who basically did the first lady of American cinema is what she's nicknamed. Did a bunch of she started a bunch of silent film work and eventually made it into walkies. Her career lasted from 1912 to 1987, and her most popular film that she ever starred in was 1915 masterpiece, The Birth of a Nation, produced by D.W. Griffith. But the one that really breaks my heart the most, Betty White, who died this past December. She was only 18 days from her 100th birthday. 18. And that's the one person I was really hoping to make it to 100. But unfortunately, like always, it was never meant to be. Okay? So with that in mind, let's get into the episode, shall we? Because that's why we're all here. We're going to pay tribute to Larry Storch today by reviewing the episode that he starred in the 20th episode of season 9 called Something Larry This Way Comes. It was recorded on January 13th, 1995 and aired on March 12th. And this episode, believe it or not, was actually directed by Amanda Burrs herself, which explains why we rarely get any appearances from her in this episode. And for those of you wondering, where does this episode title come from? It comes from the 1983. It's an allusion to the 1983 motion picture Something Wicked This Way Comes, based on the 1962 novel by Ray Bradbury, hence the same name. Okay, so this episode basically focuses on two. You have an A story and a B story. Okay, the main storyline, which is what this episode is primarily about. Kelly basically wins Student of the Month at the Larry Storch School of Acting, and her prize is not only does she get dinner with Larry Storch, she also gets to do a scene with Larry Storch live on stage in front of important producers. Now, the scene that they're going to be starting together is from Phantom of the Opera. Okay, Phantom of the Opera is a. Let me pop it up real quick. It is right here. Phantom of the Opera was originally written in a novel form in 1910 and was later adapted into a silent motion picture in 1925. In 1986, Andrew Lloyd Webber adapted Phantom of the Opera into a musical that aired on West End's theatre district in London at Her Majesty's Theatre. This premiered on October 9th, 1986. It was briefly halted by the COVID pandemic and is going to be back in production, but not with the original crew that it was with. It's going to be instead resurrected by a touring group. Okay. A few years later, in 1988, New York City incorporated an American version of Phantom of the Opera, which aired on Broadway and is still airing to this date. As of right now, Phantom of the Opera is the longest running musical on Broadway, having celebrated its 10,000th performance back in 2012. Okay. This production was also halted by the pandemic of 2 years ago and is in the process of being resurrected by the same crew that it had been before. A year later, in 1989, a Canadian version of Phantom of the Opera resurrected, airing at the Pantages Theatre from September of 1989 and lasting until October 31st, 1999. Now I'm basically going to discuss a little something here because the Canadian version is the one that I actually had the honors of seeing myself. I was in the fifth grade it was February 1998. I was a fifth grade student at DeSales Catholic School in Lockport, New York. Now back then it was tradition for fifth, sixth, and seventh graders to go see a musical in Toronto during the early part during the early part of the spring semester or the second half of the school year. You basically pay it's like a $65 fee for your field trip. Covers theater admission, covers the buses to get you from Lockport, New York to Toronto, Canada, about a 90-minute commute each way. Also covers lunch, which we wind up going to an all-you-can-eat buffet prior to the actual theater performance. Now, going to these plays and stuff basically require, because Toronto was such a far distance, it required those going on a field trip. You had to show up early. You basically got on the bus and you were gone within about 30, 45 minutes before school even started. Okay, because you had to get going in order to make it to Toronto in time for everything that you basically paid for on the field trip. Okay, so we got to go to a behind the scenes production early in the morning. Then we went to lunch, and then we went to go see the actual theater production. We had the honors of viewing this musical from the balcony, and the music and stuff was spectacular. All right. If you guys have never seen Family Opera, I encourage you guys to go see it. Whether it's on Broadway or if it's coming, there's also a touring group for Family Opera. It basically tours around the U.S. So if Family Opera ever comes to your area, go get tickets. You will not regret it. All right. So basically that's the only time I actually got to go to a musical. In the sixth grade, we were supposed to go see a musical version of Peter Pan, which it was still in pre-production at the time of the announcement of the field trip, and was scheduled to be up and running by the time that we were supposed to go. However, there was some drama that happened behind the scenes, and the production was canceled before it even made it on the stage. So the field trip wound up getting canceled. Everybody got their money back, and couple of options. Basically, it was either go see Family Opera again or no field trip. Only the fifth graders got to go see Family Opera. They basically, the fifth graders got to go see Family Opera because they had never seen it before, and the sixth and seventh graders they got cheated out of a field trip. Another option would have been to go see another musical. Beauty and the Beast was a famous musical that would have been an option. Unfortunately, by this point, Beauty and the Beast had left Toronto, so unfortunately, that was not going to be an option. Going to New York City was completely out of the question because it's an 8-hour drive each way from Buffalo, New York to New York City. It would have required a stay at a hotel, which for middle school students, not acceptable. Okay, the eighth graders were never invited to these musicals because they basically had their traditional eighth grade class trip to Boston. The biggest emphasis of that, basically, they got to go 4 days in May out to Boston, Massachusetts. They got to go see a bunch of like they got to go to an aquarium. They got to go to a couple of museums, but the main focus of their class trip was the whale watch. They got to go on a boat and see these whales come out of the ocean. I unfortunately never got to go because I was pulled out of class 7 weeks into my eighth grade year to move out from New York to Arizona. Something to this day which I have yet to forgive my mother for. Shit happens, but the timing was inexcusable. And the fact that I was originally promised to graduate from the eighth grade with those who I went to school with my entire elementary career. And at the last minute saying, F you, Carl, we're moving you out to Arizona for a new life. Okay? Biggest blow in the face. Okay? Let's move on, shall we? Okay? So basically, that's the main storyline is that they get to go do Family Opera. A B storyline, you have you have Al, who gets pressured by Peggy to demand a raise from Gary. But because Gary's shoe store is not doing enough business, Gary punishes Al and Griff by throwing both of them strictly on commission for suggesting such a stupid thing. Okay? So Al winds up coming up with an idea of a midnight madness shoe sale, which they basically sell shoes during the late night hours. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to shop at 8 o'clock and shop at midnight. It's like you basically shop late at night. It's like Black Friday, for example, where like you basically you open the doors the night before around 6 o'clock and you get take advantage of all these extra sales and stuff like that. Okay, so basically Al finds out while Al is up in the shower, which he rarely does in the show. He finds out from Kelly that Larry Storch is going to be coming to the house, and Al turns out to be a very famous, and Al turns out to be a huge fan of Larry Storch. Larry Storch is his most famous piece of work was a 1960s Western comedy called F Troop. All right, where he starred as Corporal Randolph Agorn. Okay. F Troop, let me load it up here. All right, aired for 2 seasons on ABC, premiered on September 14th, 1965, and aired its final episode on April 6th, 1967, lasting a total of 65 episodes in 2 seasons. Okay. It's a satirical American television sitcom western about U.S. soldiers and Native Americans in the Wild West during the 1860s that originally aired for 2 seasons on ABC. First 34 episodes were in black and white. The second season was in color. All right. So basically, all right. And after Peggy doesn't. Okay, let's save those for later, shall we? Okay. So basically, Bud is not confident about this Larry Storch thing. He's trying to do anything he can to. He looks like he's going to want to sabotage it. Okay. This is such a big deal for Kelly because she's going to get to star in front of very important producers that can set her up to the very next level and eventually get her enough money to get out of the house. Okay? So basically, we then go to the shoe store. Al and Griff are dressing up as werewolves for their Midnight Madness sale. They the walls of the outside, they're covered up in order to set up a joke where they open the door, Tumbleweed comes in, no customers, all right, and no business. Then we see Larry Storch show up at the house driving a Dodge. Dodge is a damn fine car. Ran over my wife with a Dodge. That's a reference to Roots 666, which is an episode that we'll eventually get to down the road. Okay? So basically, Larry Storch comes in the house. Anybody want to buy a Dodge? One owner, one gear, $1. Peggy doesn't seem to remember exactly what show Peggy's from. Basically calls a D cup at first. And then when she calls out to let him know that Larry's in the house, Hal, it's me. Larry from G Spot is here. G Spot. All right. Now I'm going to go over a couple of things here regarding the conversations between Peggy and Larry Storch. Peggy doesn't seem to know who Larry Storch is. She confuses him with actor Forrest Tucker, who played Sergeant Morgan Sylvester O'Rourke on the show. Peggy's line about if Larry Storch had a big something before Bud cuts her off says it was actually Forrest Tucker in the reference to his penis size. It was rumored that Tucker had gone so far as to challenge actor Milton Berle, who was also rumored to have a large penis, to compare each other's sizes. What the fuck did I just read? Honestly, guys, I swear, I did not read that line until just now. Okay? But basically, they were trying to cut each other off because you can't say penis on Fox. Fox, out of all things. Okay? But anyway, Howard Stern, he gets fined. He's on terrestrial radio. At least he gets sued anytime I mention penis. Baba Booey, Howard Stern's penis. Baba Booey, Baba Booey. Ron Show. So basically, Larry Storch finds out that. So Kelly basically introduces to Kelly introduces Larry Storch to Peggy and Buck and the house, trying to avoid Bud at all costs until Bud basically Kelly, that's my brother Bud. Oh, the kid with the rubber woman. Kelly made such a good monologue about you. I laughed, I cried, and now that I see you again, I'm laughing again. So then he finds out that Al is a huge fan. He wants to meet Al. So basically, Peggy calls the shoe store where there's no customers. Al, it's me. Larry from G-Spot is here. Oh, please hurry. And can you bring me some tampons on your way home? The Agorn has landed. Now, basically, Agorn is, well, he was, like I mentioned before, he was Larry Storch's reference. I mean, that was Larry Storch's character on F Troop. All right. Then, okay, right in the middle about bragging about how he's going to meet Larry Storch, Gary walks in. And Griff tries to warn Al, but basically doesn't take him seriously. Gary's not going to stop me from seeing him either. You know your problem, Griff? You're scared of Gary. Just because Gary's built like a woman doesn't mean she can hit like one. Let her come in here and sell shoes. I'm oohed up here. Then he turns around. He finds out that Gary is not only in the shoe store, but she also overheard that conversation. Please don't fire me. So basically, So then Al calls the Peggy at home, and something came up at the shoe store, so he can't make it home. He still wants to meet Larry Storch, so he asks Peggy to bring Larry to the shoe store so he can meet Al. Kelly says we have to rehearse for our scene in Phantom of the Opera, and then basically Larry gives out the most important rule of acting: never disappoint your public. Well, maybe the second. The most important is never eat a chili burrito before doing Hamlet. Or a better way of saying, never eat a bean and cheese burrito before going to work. Okay? So basically, Larry Storch suggests that we go, let's stop and meet Al on our way to dinner. Peggy doesn't want, now Peggy does not want Al to join them with dinner. So basically, she has an even brighter idea. She basically and says, let's go to dinner first. Kelly and I will go to the theater, and then we'll have Bud take you over to the shoe store to meet Al. Really, Peggy? You insensitive bitch. So basically, Larry Storch tells Kelly how to get into the theater. Now, basically, it's an abandoned theater which is being used illegally. Okay? So then so you have to you have to go into the air duct into the abandoned into the abandoned theater. So then we go back to the shoe store. Gary opens up the tills, counting a couple of coins in the till. So, this is really today's take? Griff responds, actually, ma'am, that was yesterday's take. We're going to bring it to the bank, but they have a 50-cent minimum deposit. Then Al has a suggestion. Luckily, we haven't taken our commission out yet. Which then, of course, we're going to plow right back into business. I did not amass my considerable personal fortune by giving up. I am determined to turn this place around, and I'll tell you why. Years ago, in my first venture, I went what I thought was a sure thing. But it turns out my partner was a shyster. I lost my shirt. You still had your bra, didn't you? Shut up! From that moment forward, I vowed two things. Number one, I would never again have a failing business venture. And number two, I would exact my revenge from the guy who ripped me off. Now, it turns out Gary was partners with Larry Storch in the Larry Storch School of Heating and Air Conditioning Repair. And as soon as she mentions this, guess who comes in the door? Larry Storch is in the house. Hit the deck. Gary pows one right in Larry's face, knocking him unconscious in Bud's arms. And then she storms out of the shoe store in a pissed off mode. Oh, this is great. This is great. What are we going to do now? So they put Larry Storch on the chairs, and basically Al suggests that he takes his picture. He wants Bud to take Al's picture with Larry. Come on, Al. This is Kelly's big night. She's winning the theater. You've got to do the right thing. And basically, because Larry Storch is now unconscious and cannot do the scene with Kelly on stage, Al now has to make it up to Kelly by taking over Larry's role in the episode. Okay. So basically, they all come into the theater in through the air ducts. Kelly's sitting there dusting everybody off, nice and clean. And then we get the one appearance from Jefferson and Marcy in an effort to squeeze them into the episode and give the two of them an excuse for a paycheck. Jefferson's not too thrilled to be there. Wild horses couldn't keep us away. It's a reference to the 1971 song from the Rolling Stones. Wild horses couldn't keep us away. And then basically everybody takes their seats and they basically come up. Kelly's upstairs delivering her scene. Out of all the opera joints in all the world, he happened to come into mine. And basically it's a reference to the 1942 film Casablanca, where Humphrey Bogart's character, out of all the bar joints in all the world, she had to come walking into mine. Okay. Then we see Al Bundy up on stage wearing the half mask, and he's basically reading his cards. I just sit here and play with my organ. Larry, you're supposed to play here. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Jefferson shouts, "Charge!" And then Kelly, "Sit down, you son of a bitch!" So then Kelly has to deliver the very famous part of the storyline. She has to unmask the Phantom of the Opera. Al refuses to have him be seen because he doesn't want his cover blown. So the two of them are fighting with each other to take the mask off. Meanwhile, you see Marcy and Jefferson sitting there in the stands thinking this is the real thing. But then it basically gets into the audience, and Al's Phantom costume comes crawling off, which he apparently was. Al was still wearing his werewolf costume. All right, underneath that Phantom costume that he was supposed to wear in place of Larry Storch. Tails, moon, feet, Al. So Peggy finds out that Larry Storch's character is really Al. No, wait, Mr. Storch, that's the emergency exit. So Al basically tries to escape, not knowing that that's the emergency exit. He goes running through, and the alarm goes off, and then the announcer, and then basically the announcer makes pages a message over the intercom. Ladies and gentlemen, the police will be arriving shortly. Please exit single filely through the decorative grates. We hope you enjoyed your theater experience. So basically, Kelly forgives Al on the basis that he was trying to help make things right. But then, of course, Larry's pissed off. Larry's probably upset because he got knocked out. Peggy and Bud are probably upset because they got arrested and Al would not foot the bill for their bail. And then we wind up, so we basically have a sweet moment between Al and Peggy, between Al and Kelly. They have a sweet moment with each other. Al decides maybe I should go back to the shoe store, but then of course I'm dodging an APB. And then basically imagines that the shoe store is still silent with Griff sitting there doing nothing. Turns out the complete opposite. Word gets out that Larry Storch is at Gary's shoes, and Griff decides to exploit it by charging each. Not only do we have customers coming in to buy shoes, they're also coming in to get their pictures taken with an unconscious Larry Storch, for a fee, of course. So then we have the final scene where this lady sits there, has his picture, having her picture taken with Larry. But right before the picture, of course, Larry tries to regain consciousness, and then of course Griff plucks him in the head with a hat. Bing! All right, say cheese. And that's the end of the episode. All right. Now, basically, this was. Before we get into it, let's see if there's any other. Let's see, any other references I should bring in here. All right. There was a joke at the very beginning of the episode we got to mention. Peggy is calling the Shop at Home Network for the NYPD Blue Naked Butt Salt and Pepper Shakers. Okay. NYPD Blue was a police procedural drama that aired on ABC from 1993 to 2005, known for its grittiness and realistic portrayals, as well as featuring nudity and crude language that was not common on broadcast television at the time. One of the one, Dennis Franz basically was one of the main characters. He played one of the main characters on the show, and that's the one person I remember. NYPD Blue. My father used to work in law enforcement, so basically he would sit there on Tuesday nights, and this would be his show. When this show was on, you could not bother him. Okay, that's how much he was into the show, and I'm not sure how he's able to make it all these years after NYPD Blue has gone off the air. But 12 years in prime time, that's pretty long, and they should be thankful to have a 12-year run. Married Children lasted for 11 seasons. Okay, so let's go into my review, shall we? It was great to see Larry Storch show in. He was willing to go in on the jokes as well. We basically have a very strong A plot. B plot is it goes around pretty smoothly as well. It ties in with the A story very well. Okay. We love Larry Storch's performance. We love the midnight shoe sale references. We basically all the other things that come together. And then one thing I forgot to mention, we also have there's a scene in the first half where Kelly Bundy, she basically where is it? Oops, okay. Oh, here we go. There is a scene. She was in a red dress. Okay, she's looking up at the ceiling, saying that she can soar with the Beagles. This is right before Larry Storch comes in the house. That scene right there is used for Kelly Bundy's scene in the intro sequences in seasons 10 and 11. Okay, so in season 10 we got a brand new introduction to Married Children, especially with Buck being replaced by Lucky. So that we see Al with his pants down his shirt like always. No particular episode in general. We then see Peggy on the sofa watching Oprah on the couch in the episode 25 Years and What Do You Get? Kelly's reference is this episode, Something Larry This Way Comes Over. Okay, so then we get that as well. Both storylines go together. I love Larry Storch's cameo. He was willing to go in with the jokes as well. So what do I give this episode? I'm actually going to give this when the Mirror Children podcast reviewed this, I gave this a 4.5 out of 5, and that's going to be the same rating I'm going to give for this, 4.5 out of 5. Okay, it was a really good episode. I really loved it, but there are other episodes in season 9 that I basically loved better than this. And I can't give every episode in season 9 a 5 out of 5. Okay, I have to save those for those I liked the very best. This one I liked, but there are others I loved even better. And now that Larry Storch is unfortunately passed on, this will be another timeless episode. They'll probably like a little more than I have liked before. Okay, so that's this episode in a nutshell. I invite you guys to join the Married Children podcast team in hopefully in the next couple days. They're going to be starting their review for season 11 with this episode called Twisted, which was the first episode to air in season 11. They're going to be going in the order of the episode production in season 11 is completely messed up, as the podcast team will mention, but they're going to be reviewing stuff in the order from which it aired. Okay? So when they review Twisted, and I'll be there to review it with you guys, even though I will not be on the episode. Couple of things here. What's season 11 going to be like? And then we also have that cliffhanger from the end of season 10, where Griff was on the electric chair in the Jokes on Now. Did he survive? We'll find out. Until next time we meet, I'm Mr. Wildcat, reminding each and every one of you to be good, be careful, and behave. Well, Bundy.